Morning, everyone. We're going to talk about something that is going to affect the entire world's economy in less than 30 days. But before we get into that, and it has to do with another country, I want to explain to you why it is going to affect you in this country. And I'm going to explain something that for some reason, so many millions and millions of people have never been able to understand, yet the elite and the wealthiest people in the world do understand that. And first off, it is the separation of those that have patience and those that do not. Now, the event that's coming in less than 30 days has to do with China and their debt markets. But just because we don't live in China doesn't mean that China and whatever happens there does not affect us. If the last 4 years of COVID doesn't ring a bell, then you have to understand how big of a deal this is. I don't know what to tell you if you don't understand it. But I'm going to try and explain that to those who have ears to hear, all right? Because there are so many people in the media and in social media that all they do is tell you about what's happening today. And they forecast the future based off of what is happening today. Real estate's not crashing because today my neighbor sold their house. They do not understand the lack of transactions, the absolute collapse in transactions, the drop in velocity. Those that talk about car prices, they say car prices aren't dropping. Even though we know that they're dropping at the auction houses, they're not dropping the dealership, so they're not dropping tomorrow. They do not understand something that is so fundamentally important and something that is now, it was gripping just the real estate market. Now it is gripping the auto market. And it is right now starting to grip the construction market. And that is a seizure, a stopping of transactions. It is happening right now. That is collapse. Fools. And I want to make this very clear. Fools rush in. Well, fools also look at what's happening today and compare it to what happened yesterday. They don't think about what happened the last cycle, years and years and years prior, being able to now forecast what happens tomorrow. The Farmer's Almanac is not there to be able to give you, oh, sweet, it was hot yesterday, it was hot today, it'll be hot tomorrow. It tells you seasonal changes throughout the last century. The reason why the Farmer's Almanac is so important to look at is because there is nothing new under the sun. However, there's always something new tomorrow or the day before or the day after tomorrow. Why? Because we have constant cycles within bigger cycles. And then ultimately, there are only so many cycles until the entire cycle of cycles repeats itself. All right? Now, again, we're going to get to the story in China and how it is going to affect us in America. I believe it's going to blow through Europe first, and then it is going to come into the U.S. The reason why the U.S. will be last is because we still have the dollars as the world's reserve currency. I know it sounds crazy because it is collapsing as well, but this is very important information to get through. People need to, if you want to be successful, stop looking at your local area. Stop looking at your local economy. If you want to be a successful investor, you must pull back and look at the large picture. Thank you, Andre, for the super chat. When you look at the big picture, you make big money. So many people are focused on little transactions, little bits of money, little investments, because they're looking at little markets, which is usually primarily their own market. They don't separate themselves. And what's happening right now, just in the car industry, is blowing my mind. Well, let me stop and explain. I'm always ahead of time because I'm looking very far back into the future, into economic and monetary history. I know that I joke around a lot. That's just my personality, but I do actually take this stuff very serious. That's why I came out with the housing course. I know from 100% experience how long that market took to drop from mid-2005 to 2008. I had all that time to prepare, liquidate all my homes. But by 2008, I couldn't sell my home. Why? Because interest rates are so high, people were losing their jobs, they didn't have the money, okay? You are right at that moment where a flood of inventory is starting to hit the market. It's already happening in places like Austin, Las Vegas. Las Vegas inventories went up like 400% over the last year and a half, right? It's not moving like it should. Why? Because nobody has money. There are other locations like Austin, Texas, which you have to understand was the biggest part of this bubble in the country. its inventory has exploded in a year and a half as well. And look at all the price reductions. Go on to Zillow, do yourself a favor, and just go through the price reductions. What's really even better is to go through the price reductions on new homes in developments in the city of Austin. That shows you what's coming to your local town. We have cities all around the country that are outlawing these Airbnbs. They are, so those are having hit the market as either long-term rentals, and since they were bought wrong, they're hitting the market as sales. And you are going to see people get squeezed like you have never seen before. There are so many homes in foreclosure, but it's not being reported. Why? Because if it was, then that would exacerbate the real estate problem. On the flip side, auto sales. Go into your local dealer and find out how many salesmen there are. And what you're going to find is there's one or two, usually a sales manager and possibly one other in a large dealership. Why? Because there's no transactions. They're not going to pay or waste anybody's time working on commission when there's no sales to be had. Go to your local real estate office right now and find out how many agents have become agents in the last 5 years only to now try and find other means of jobs. Look at your mortgage industry. They're all imploding right now. This is collapse. And that's why I started that real estate course. That's why I'm starting right now. We're filming the how to make money and save money buying cars and save money buying flipping car or make money flipping cars. And the reason why is because you need to have that information before these prices drop out in the public, where they're out in the, I mean, I just had a buddy pay $10,000 under MSRP for a Dodge Ram truck, brand new. They need your business. And it's starting, but you need that information. So I'll put links to both of those. The car class is going to take me a full month because I'm going to probably be flying all over the country to be getting information for that course. But it'll take me a full month. So I'll put links down below to both those 80% off. But you need to have this information before, because what I see, and when I talk about fools rushing in, when the market started to drop in 2008, actually late 2007, early 2008 in real estate, because people were panicking and some people were trying to get out the exit first. They would drop their home by $50,000 before everyone else, because everyone else was in denial. So people would run in and grab that. But what they didn't realize was a mere 2 years later, that house had fallen by $150,000 extra. And you need to know these cycles before. You are now in the greatest seizure, the greatest collapse in credit right now in history. And what you're about to see in the next 8 to 12 weeks, you're going to see it all over the news. All right? The reason why those 3 or 4 banks failed in the spring, and now you've got 2 more that just failed last week or a week and a half ago, is because of liquidity. If they had had liquidity, they would have been open still. They're gone. And if you take all of that loss right there and you add it up, it's greater than all of 2008 combined. This is not a joke. You're seeing something that happened so much bigger than Bear Stearns in the spring of 2008 than just this year. Right now, you're here. I don't care. Think about this. Right now, the greatest wealth that's built up in someone's mind is the housing wealth effect. It is the greatest scientifically proven wealth effect there is on earth. It's greater than a stock bubble, than a gold bubble. It's the real estate. Why? Because it's all there. But in 2007, people lost their ability to go and borrow against it. Well, guess what? They've already lost their ability to borrow against it. Nobody can go, let's say you got $300,000 built up in equity in your home right now. You can't access it. Sure, you can go get a loan, but at what cost? Can you make that payment? Can you borrow that 300 grand additionally on top of your first with an interest rate of 7 or 8%? No, you can't. Why? Because you're being squeezed on every other thing in your life. Food, utilities, school, everything. And guess what? It's about to get worse. So you're about to witness the breaking point. And for anybody out there that would put a comment that sits there and goes, well, you don't get it in my area. I'm like, man, you just don't get it, period. Because I'm showing you the future by using the past as the indicator, as the truth. Now, I thank everybody that hits the thumbs up button, because we've got to get this information out, because quite frankly, it's one thing for you to make $1 million, but if we don't keep the money in the middle class and share this truth and knowledge, we're going to lose our country, because the elite will become richer, literally like they did in 2008. The too big to fail banks will get even bigger, and then it's over. We're done. You don't want your small bank going out of business. But right now it is, secretly. Federal Reserve already told you, 723 banks last September told us that they're insolvent. The Federal Reserve just told you we're liquidating our balance sheet rapidly. They said that in their last meeting. Like Jerome Powell said that in front of the nation, but he said it so fast, people just gloss over it. The auto industry is hemorrhaging because the largest lenders in the market, and just so you know, nobody can afford a car cash. Most people cannot afford a car cash. So the auto industry is collapsing because all the lending is pulling out. This is absolutely mind-blowing to me that people aren't prepared for this or seeing the writing on the wall. But hey, good news. The FDA just came out and said that ivermectin is a great thing for COVID. After it's all done, huh? Truth always comes out. Here we go. This is a story out of Zero Hedge. And I want you to understand why the next 30 days is crucial. You're going to see this bubble pop in 30 days. Now, I've been talking about Evergrande and all of these companies in China. And remember, I was the first one on the internet to talk about commercial mortgage-backed securities crisis. And it was actually before Evergrande. I actually talked about it for the first time on YouTube and did a whole story on it. And I said, look, I didn't do a story. There was no such thing as a story. I said, this is the next coming crisis. It was 4 months before the Evergrande story in China came out. And that's when Google shot that video up and ranked it really high. There's nobody on the internet that was talking about this. This is the greatest bubble in the history of securities, literally in the last 100 years. I'm not joking. This is going to be amazing, the sheer fallout from this. It says China is facing a bigger debt crisis than Evergrande in under 30 days. The undisputed credit event of 2021, a year when rates around the globe were near all-time lows and bankruptcies were virtually unheard of, was the default and collapse of Chinese property giant Evergrande. Now, also, I want you to understand, Evergrande had ripple effects through Europe and into the United States. Evergrande had their claws in real estate in both of those countries. Our countries had money invested in Evergrande. And immediately when Evergrande collapsed, there was a shockwave that hit because the Fed and the ECB and other agencies came out and said, where's the liability? Who's got money in this company? And it wasn't just Evergrande. Evergrande was the first one. It led to a stair-stepping collapse, and then it just sort of went away. But what didn't go away was the crisis. The reason why it went away, the sound, you know, the news cycle, was because money was printed, things were covered up. You have to understand how big of a deal this is. Back in 2005, we actually had a mortgage-backed securities crisis. Ben Bernanke, at the time, the chair of the Federal Reserve, addressed the nation and said, he fixed it. It's done. Right now you have Jerome Powell saying, we fixed the banking crisis. It's done. We're going to have a soft landing. At the same time, in the exact same speech, he said, and I quote, we are looking to aggressively lower our balance sheet. What do you think that means? Type 1 if you think that this is going to get worse. Type 2 if you think that Jerome Powell's got this under the control. Watch everybody's reactions. It said here, it was the default of Chinese property giant Evergrande, which many feared would drag down the entire Chinese financial system due to its hundreds of billions in real estate-linked liabilities, if the state didn't step in. Fast forward 2 years, and China is again emerging as the venue of what may be the year's biggest default, one which, according to Bloomberg, could spark a debt crisis that rivals China's Evergrande Group default. On Monday, Country Garden Holdings, just so you know, Country Garden already fell apart about a year and 8 months ago. All right, and that's when the whole story got quelled. So you're gonna, this is gonna be awesome. On Monday, Country Garden Holdings, formerly China's largest private sector developer and headed by China's formerly richest woman, Yang Yuhan, officially entered a technical default grace period. Now, they did this back in past and everything got fixed. It got papered over, all right? So now you have what's known as a grace period, which means you have a certain amount of days when you aren't making your payments to cough up the payments before we go into technical default and we start serving papers and start seizing assets, which really quickly, and the Chinese government already knows, there's no assets there. It's all debt, okay? All right. Oh, and by the way, remember, China, there's just a story that came out. China is working diligently to stop reporters from and economists from using the word deflation. Okay, they're trying to hide this on the cusp of, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to see a lot of news coming out from the Western countries right now about China ripping them apart, making it worse prior to this BRICS event that happens in a couple of weeks. They're going to try and discredit them. You're going to see this in the next couple of weeks in the news cycle. All right? Look at them, look at them. Don't look at us. Don't look at us. See, because China's working on a new currency to rival and destroy the dollar. So they're going to do everything they can to try and hurt them and their actions right now, all while your country, either Canada, US, or Europe, is collapsing. All right? I want you to understand that. You will see that. It says here they've officially entered a technical default grace period, failing to pay interest on 2 bonds and leaving investors in the dark after bondholders said they've yet to receive coupon payments. That puts the firm, which had 1.4 trillion yuan or 199 billion US dollars of total liabilities at the end of the last year, on course for its first public default if it doesn't make payments within the 30-day grace period. Until recently, the largest private sector developer by sales in a country whose property market was estimated by Goldman as the largest single asset in the world. The builder of more than 3,000 housing projects in smaller cities has long been a household name and employed about 70,000, soon to be unemployed, people at the end of last year. While the company's giant footprint and massive balance sheet has given it dry powder to withstand the industry cash crunch that started in 2021 and has continued to date, leading to record defaults since Evergrande first missed bond payments, tumbling home sales, and soaring refinancing costs are not only threatening that streak, but have exhausted the company's reserves, and now the company has less than a month to avoid default. Let me explain where I believe this is going. You are going to see when this defaults, and I don't know if it will default in the next 30 days. I am pretty sure they will come up with a late payment. But if you work in the industry, the credit industry, the debt industry, you will know this. When someone starts to late pay, it is the beginning of the end. That is it. So I do believe that they will come up with payments. They will get an emergency loan from another bank that they are forced to get a loan from by the Chinese government. Because remember, if the Chinese government directly injects money into them, then it's a sign of weakness. But the Chinese government can coerce another financial firm to loan them the money. Watch how this works. This is very important to understand the background of financial collapse. They force another firm, and then they herald it as the company wanted to bail them out because they see such value in their other assets, thus giving financial support and stability to that sector and that company. And investors go, oh, well, I'm just an investor, but if that big bank or that big company invested in them to bail them out, they must see something I don't. And they're perfect wordsmiths. But I'm telling you right now, that was coerced, because it's like the banks bailing each other out. Like, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. We got our own problems. We got our own balance sheet issues. But the Fed comes in and negotiates these deals. This is exactly what happened in 2008. The Fed forced banks, the big banks, to bail out other ones. And look what's happening right now in our banking sector. The Fed is straight up forcing the big banks to pay the insurance for the small banks. The FDIC is now insolvent. Think about this. This is how bad the market is. And if you think this is doom and gloom, you're an idiot. And I only say idiot to straight up smack you upside the face verbally and maybe hopefully wake you up. I can't think of any other. This is like, it's not time for panic. It's time for doing something or thinking differently and going, you know what? The next 30, 60, 90 days, should I go on that vacation? Should I go and eat out? How can I change my balance sheet a little bit? And let's just say the ninja is wrong, 100% wrong, and things don't get worse over the next year. I still got money. I just saved money, right? Isn't that crazy? The FDIC didn't go insolvent during 2008. It didn't make an announcement that we don't have any money, you need to replace the money. And then the Fed back then didn't have to force the big banks to pay it all up, because they literally said, the Fed said, Through the media, it came out, yeah, the little banks can't do this. They're so insolvent. We got a phone call from 723 of them last September. It's bad. We didn't have leaked video footage of FDIC meetings where they're literally saying, if the public finds out, and this was last November, if the public finds out that the banks are collapsing, there's going to be panic. People will be pulling money and it will exacerbate the problem. This didn't happen in 2008. So I don't care how much your neighbor sold his house for. If you can't understand that nobody else is selling their homes, they're now locked into their homes, they can't go anywhere. Oh, and just so you know, Fed's going to keep raising rates. Then I don't know what to tell you. If you don't understand why it's your right and your duty to make as much money from this crash as possible, because if not, the banks are going to do it. And they're going to take your wealth and your neighbor's wealth. I don't know what to tell you. We are losing the battle. If the middle class loses the money, we're screwed. And people need to wake up to this fact right now. I could joke around and laugh, and that's why I've been able to get so many people to follow and watch the channel, trying to interject truth every single day, but bringing a positive spin to it, because I'm like, this is not a joke. This is way worse than 2008. And you got to really check who you're listening to. Because, man, I'm telling you what's going to happen in the next 30 days? They're going to get a bailout from another company, all right? That's it. But just, they're sick. They're in serious trouble. And those shockwaves are going to reverberate through, and there are going to be bondholders in this company in America that are going to take losses. Just throwing this out there. Matter of fact, if any of you know of any bondholders in this country, put it in the comment section. Email me, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty easy to hunt this down. This is going to be exciting. So whether it happens in 30 days, which I don't believe it's going to, I believe it's going to get bailed out. They're going to be late paying now, and they're going to fail again, and they're going to fail again. And this is exactly what happened, not only to industry in 2007, 2006, around that time, definitely in 2008, but it happened to the average person. And right now, credit card balances crossed $1 trillion. That's never happened either. Think about all the things. You start adding up all the things that have never happened, and you are literally getting yourself set up for the biggest collapse in history. This is exciting. This should get you pumped. And I'm trying to figure out any which way I can and wake people up. Because if you're not a part of it and making money, you're going to be a part of the side that's losing and literally losing your shirt. I'm going to put discount links to both of those courses. The car course is going to take me some time. We've got 12 videos out for editing right now. For everybody that bought the real estate side hustle course, I just put up the real estate crash course. I just put up 2 more videos. I got 2 more in the hopper. I'm never going to stop putting courses. I think we're up to 31 lessons now on the real estate course. I'm never going to stop with these courses putting added videos, because as the industry changes, all I want to hear when I meet you, and I got to be honest with you, from the amount of pre-sales that went from all of my current students, they're shutting the lights off on me now. It was amazing. I'll put links to that. Thank you so much for supporting me and enjoying the content. All right, with that being said, the Economic Ninja, lights out.